Hi, good morning. Today we are going to analyze the two movies, The Boy of Stray Pajamas and Jojo Rabbit. My name is Jessica,
I'm Isabella.
And I'm Giselle.
and we're going to start with some important historical context.
What is the Holocaust?
The Holocaust started in Europe, and it was between 1933 and 1945. The Holocaust was an organized and sponsored persecution and mass assassination of an estimated of 6 million of European Jews by the Nazi German regime. It started and organized by Adolf Hitler, who arrived to the power by political procedures with the support of the Nazi Party. The concentration camps was not managed by the judicial power, and the three main purposes of it was to put in jail the people that could be perceived as enemies or a threat for the Nazis and their security. They kept them in prison for undefined time or were killed and executed.
So, what about the concentration camps?
When Nazis arrived to power, they actually didn't start killing people immediately, but they executed and denigrated the Jewish people. The concentration camps started when Hitler was named Chancellor and he joined with the police, which was the SS and the SA, and other civil authorities, and then started the concentration camps in order to imprison the real and known opponents of the Nazi Party and continue putting them all over Germany. The biggest concentration camps were the Oranienburg, the Dachau, and the Lichtenberg. They were forced labor camps, but then became execution camps.
Do you ever ask yourself where are all the stuff that was left of the Holocaust?
A place where some of the most important articles of the Holocaust and concentration camps trials are preserved is the trial of Nazi war crimes, consists of materials from U.S. Army tribunals for cases not concluded at Nuremberg. Also, a lot of information of the financial investigations and regarding the intelligence are stored in the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum.
First, we're going to analyze the Jojo Rabbit movie.
Jojo Rabbit was not based in a true story. It was based on a book published in 2008, and it is from the author Christine Lorenz. It is situated in the Germany war during the World War II, and the story is focused in a 10-year-old boy called Jojo that has an imaginary friend called Adolf Hitler that represents the ideal Führer. He goes to a Hitler youth camp where he gets hurt and returns to his house, but still have the ideals of Hitler. All Jojo has known is that Hitler ideology says, but he changes his point of view when his mother hides a Jewish girl in the house and he gets to know her. Then, when his mother is caught being a Jewish supporter and killed, he tries to help Elsa.
Some of the main topics of this movie is the Jews hiding, the training children from war, and the repression of the Nazi Party. We can see several characters such as Jojo and his friends that are German and Aryan race, and they support the Nazi Party. On the other hand, there's Rosie, Jojo's mother, which is German and Aryan, but she's against the war. And obviously the Jewish girl is against the war. The main two contrasting ideologies are the Hitler ideology and the Jewish point of view. Hitler believes that the Aryan is superior race and Jews must be exterminated from Germany because they are inferior, and he wants to create a pure Germany. At the beginning of the movie, Jojo supports this idea because that's all he knows. But since Rosie believes the war should end and then she's killed, this is like a turning point for Jojo. And also when she meets Elsa, she sees Hitler as a cruel person. But Jojo understands that the Jews are not bad people, but they cannot stand up because of this disadvantage. At the end, the Allied forces won and arrived to imprison all Hitler's followers, and Elsa and Jojo are finally free.
Now we're going to talk about The Boy in the Stray Pajamas. This is also not based in a true story, and it is based on a book. during World War II in Berlin. The story is about a 9-year-old that grew up during World War II, Bruno, and lived with his friend and his older sister. His father got the job of commandant of the death camp of Auschwitz, so they had to move to the death camp. Bruno constantly used to see the prisoners and think that they were dressed up in street pajamas. One day he went to the corner of the camp and met Samuel. They created a really beautiful friendship that ended in a tragedy.
Some of the subtopics of this movie was friendship, concentration camps, and life of Nazi children during World War. The characters of this movie was Bruno and his family that are all Germans, and his father is a commander officer in the Nazi party, so he served for Hitler. Gretel, the sister of Bruno, shared the same strong belief and devotion for the Nazi party. And Elsa, the mother, never was happy with the idea of living outside of a concentration camp. On the other hand, Samuel is a Polish Jewish boy, and all his family was too, but he was separated of his family. Some ideologies that it can be identified during the movie is the nationalism, which is the Nazi party ideology that is most seen in Bruno's father and sister. This ideology consists in the strong belief of an idea that joins the community, and during the movie, this one has the power. One of the most important characters is the father, Ralph. He is the leader of the family, so he shares his beliefs with his family. Also, because of him, the family moved to the concentration camps. He was a soldier in World War II, and then he became commander officer and became in charge of the camp. He was strict and intimidating. He stood for nationalism and the ideas that Hitler promoted. At the end of the movie, several Nazi soldiers took Bruno and Samuel, thinking that they both were Jewish prisoners. The day was rainy, and Bruno thought that the soldiers were putting them in a shelter for them, but no, they were entering to a gas chamber. Both died together with innocence and without knowing that they weren't going to get out of there alive.
Now that the background is clear, let's talk about the similarities in each movie. The element to be analyzed is the historical context, because in both movies, it takes place during the Second World War in Germany. Other elements are the children. The main characters are children, and the movie's perspective is from the children during the war. And the third one is friendship, because in both stories, it highlights the friendship between a child from the Nazi party and a Jew child. At first, they are hesitant because of the differences between them, but as the movies develop, they become closer and accept their difference.
Another similarities that we can see is the love of people in both movies. One of the characters loses at least one important person of her life, without knowing that it will happen, making it essential step to show how the war made them lose their innocence, and even though they were just kids. And finally, the relation with the authorities is another similarity of both movies, because the children have a close relationship with the people that were in charge of the things and strategies that the Nazis had, making the other people. In the case of Jojo Rabbit, with his imaginary friend Adolf Hitler and the person that was in charge of him, and with the boy of street pajama with his father.
During both movies also have differences. The setting and perspective of the conflict was one difference. In Jojo Rabbit, the movie takes place in the city of Frankheim in Germany, and is shown from the city and how society is lived within a country at war. And the boy in striped pajamas takes place in the concentration camp of Auschwitz. The boy in the striped pajamas is shown from within a field of consent where the direct consequences of war are being experienced. Another difference is the way to transmit the message. In Jojo Rabbit, the message is transmitted with comedy and sense of humor. On the other hand, the boy in striped pajamas is transmitted in a most nostalgic way. Deaths are another difference. In Jojo Rabbit shows the loss of the mother from the protagonism that is a kid, showing how it affected the children. And in the boy in silver pajamas illustrate the loss of the son from the father, showing it from the perspective of an adult and a person that was in favor of the Holocaust.
Other difference is the interest in the conflict. It was clear that Jojo Rabbit was in favor of the Nazi Party, and he showed his support continuously, even assisting at the camp or making a book about how evil the Jews were. But then he changes his opinion when he helps the girl Elsa survive and stay hidden in his house. On the other hand, in the boy in striped pajamas, Bruno didn't really support nor oppose the war. He was actually bored by it. When the professor came to study with him and taught him about how evil the Jews were, he only wanted to read about other things and play, not really caring about it. He also died without really knowing what was going on.
And finally, the last difference is the focus of the story. Jojo Rabbit is focusing a kid that supports Nazi idealism, loses her mother, who was against it, and has to live with a Jewish girl, as well as it can be seen that there is more use of propaganda and the diffusion of the ideals of each group. On the other hand, in The Boy of Striped Pajamas, the boy talks about a friendship between a kid that lives near to the concentration camp and a Jewish boy, and is more focused in the human area, trying to evoke more feelings and empathize with the characters. After all this analysis and seeing both movies, I consider that these movies portrayed the values of those times and respect and considering, because even though some scenes has some humors or try to portray it in a software way, it illustrates all the atrocities and all of those events and how difficult it was for them to overcome it and even survive, as well as how it affected them, the Holocaust and the ideals of those times. In both movies, we can see the way characters interact with each other, having a closer relation with their family or friends and being more careful with the authorities. As perspective that can be seen nowadays is the lack of respect for different ideologies. This is seen also in the movie. And we can see how this rise to violence and war, killing thousands of people, like in Israel and Palestine that has been in war since the beginning of 1948, arising from the different opinions of both countries and the territory of each one. As well, today we can see the perspective of how children lose their innocence and childhood because of these events that obligate them to confront and suffer all the consequences and traumas that these can develop, and taking them away the opportunity to live a normal life, calm, making them worry every moment about their life and the life of the others. This influence in the moment of the analysis, because we can see that even though many decades have passed, these events and lack of respect for different ideologies keeps passing and affecting our present and future. Personally, I consider that some of the things that can help to avoid bias in this type of cultural product that involves historical themes is to take into account both perspectives, make a deep analysis highlighting the most important things to consider to make it the most accurate as possible. Have an expert about the topic to have some advices, and show it to someone that had been in it or that has a lot of knowledge in this topic to see if there should be some changes or if it's fine as it is. I think that the cultural product based on historical events should be able to have some creativity to plan what the author wants to transmit, according to the public and the topic it is about, by taking into account the main idea and the most important things that happen of the event and being respectful in the way it transmits. As well, I consider that there should be specified if it is completely accurate and precise or not, to also help the audience to be well informed and understand without misunderstanding things or thinking that they are well informed while the movie or product was made as an entertainment.
With each other. An example is the family in both movies, where the gender roles are very present. The father is working with the military while the mother stays back to take care of the children. But those are different to present day. Discrimination is still present nowadays. In the movies, there is discrimination of Jewish people, and even if in the present day it is not that extreme, prejudice and exclusion is common among people around the world. This makes it a current problem and gives it a more significance because we are still fighting against it. It has a deeper impact on people who have been discriminated against. Human interaction is key to our communities, and as we grow together, we start forming friendships. Friendship is one of the main topics in both movies. Friendship between very different people, a Nazi follower and a Jewish. They help each other, and even if they were hesitant at a certain point, they end up together. Friends learn from each other in the movie as well as nowadays. It will always be present because it is necessary among humans, and it is very relatable because all of us have close friendships. If a movie about a current event were to be filmed in the future, there is a way to avoid biased history. That way could be only by documenting the current important events and with a lot of details and facts, but also opinions from various points of view. That way, there is not only one absolute truth, and the implications from the different parties can be considered. I believe that there should be a certain amount of freedom in cultural products, but it should be clarified at the beginning of the product, such as a movie. If you want a completely accurate product, you should watch documentaries or read historical books. But cultural products are made to entertain, and since history is so brutal and confusing, it may not be attractive among the communities. In this way, it is made easy to understand in a friendly way, especially since the audience can be children. They may not be mature enough to watch the graphic truths of history.
In my opinion, during that time, they had very different values than today due to how questionable the circumstances were at the time because of the war and everything that was experienced within. I consider that the values are not respected at all, and it can be clearly seen during the two films in which denigration, mistreatment, and exploitation is suffered towards a specific group of people who are considered inferior due to their religion and beliefs. One of the values that still remains in our society today is perseverance, since human beings are designed to get ahead in difficult situations where they really want something. As seen in the movies at that time, some persevered to achieve power while others persevere day by day to stay alive, and things remain the same today. Another aspect that has not changed is the disagreement between perspectives according to your cultural context, since during that time the world was caused by the conflict of ideologies. Today, and thanks to social networks, people feel with the right to confront and question their perspective on life due to the difference in perspectives thanks to their context, which has made us currently live with wars such as Russia and Ukraine. From what we have learned in the movies, I consider that to avoid the dissemination of ideologies about a current event that has to do with a historical issue, we must adequately analyze what we are trying to convey in order to be well informed and not be left behind. If it is easy to compare it with our values and ideologies to see the similarities within and how it represents us, and in the same way, who is being affected by it, to see all the possible points of view and avoid any conflict that goes against our interests, values, and beliefs. I think it's susceptible for there to be certain degrees of creative freedom or adaptations of parts of the creation to tell a story effectively, since in this way they're given more freedom to create more scenarios that can be caused by historical events that can be more adapted to the viewer today. It also allows them to imagine vulnerable situations and happy endings to extremely tragic stories to transmit a better message.
With the characters. We hope you liked this podcast.
Thank you so much for your attention.
Bye. Thank you for seeing.